I'm going to talk about My Rival's House by Liz Lockhead. It is comedic in that Liz Lockhead takes the conventionally comedic topic of the mother-in-law and gives her own quite different perspective on it. She explores the idea that the mother-in-law might be a rival. The form of the poem is free verse, so there's no regular rhyme or rhythm to it. It's heavily punctuated, which gives the feel of gives the poem a sort of a clipped, inhibited feel. There is some occasional rhyming, which I think adds to the comedy. Let's have a look at the first verse. We've got the title, My Rival's House, and that leads into, it reads as the opening line of the poem as well. My rival's house is peopled with many surfaces. So she repeats the idea of surfaces. This is a place which reflects the character of the mother-in-law or the partner's mother, who seems to focus on outward things. The surfaces, look at the description of the surface, ormolu and gilt and slipper satin and lush velvet couches. These are all shiny, rich, showy furnishings that are perhaps designed to intimidate or to impress, perhaps. But they're all just superficial, outwardly glossy things. Gilt is often gold gilt, but underneath the metal won't be quite so precious. Slipper satin is a very shiny material. On the other side, it's very dull, and so on. So it's not outwardly showy, but the reality is very, very different. The cushions are stiff, so you can't sink in them. They're not cosy, they're not welcoming, a bit like her. So the house, the setting, reflects the character of this mother-in-law or mother figure. So the tables are polished, clear enough to see distortions in. And what's that idea of distortions? What is it really saying? That perhaps the reality is manipulated, is falsified in some way. Second verse. An awful house this would be to visit. We take our shoes off at the door, shuffle stockings soled, tiptoe. The parquet floor is beautiful and its surface must be protected. So this word surface is repeated 4 times in this poem. So this mother-in-law figure is preoccupied with the idea of preserving the appearance of her home, protecting it. Everybody has to shuffle in, tiptoe. What do those actions suggest? Maybe dragging one's feet, reluctant, feeling a bit awkward, tiptoe, being timid. So this is not a welcoming place. Its surface must be protected. That idea about must is very emphatic, isn't it? Sounds like an order reflecting the mother-in-law's personality as well. 3 rhyming couplets: door floor, must, dust, shade, fade, kind of giving it a fairly humorous tone. Moving on to the 3rd verse, again more items that are shiny, silver sugar tongs, silver salver, etc., all very, very glossy. And then she uses that idea and talks about glossing over him and me. Sibilance, silver sugar tongs and silver salver. Kind of there's that sibilance helps to maybe characterise the mother as being a bit sneaky, a bit manipulative, perhaps, a bit snake-like. She glosses over him and me. Obvious double meaning, isn't there, with the word glosses. Links to the idea of the surfaces in this house that are just for show and are a distortion of reality. And then the speaker herself also hides behind a facade. I am all edges, a surface, a shell. Yes, she hides behind a daughterly facade. That's mentioned, I think, in the just a little bit further down. Deferential, daughterly, I sip. So yes, she's maintaining her own kind of facade as well, but that facade is perhaps easily broken. It's described maybe as a shell, something that's easily broken. Yet my rival thinks she means well, but what squirms beneath her surface, I can tell. So, beneath, we're taught that everybody's got a surface. What squirms beneath the surface, I can tell. That word squirms implies, discomfort as well. Beneath the surface, her disapproval can easily be detected. And then there's this really interesting contrast between them sitting there having a very polite cup of tea, and underneath there's a really vicious battle for survival going on. Reminds us of the scene between Gwendolyn and Cecily in Importance of Being Earnest, where you've got this superficial, convention of, sitting down and having tea, all very, very polite, but beneath the surface, it's cutting. Soon my rival, capped tooth, polished nail, will fight foul for her survival. Those fricatives, that alliteration of the F sound, making it, the speaker sound very forceful, very aggressive, highlighting the friction maybe between them. Tooth and nail. You've heard of the phrase, haven't you? Fight tooth and nail. And I think that Lockhead is trying to remind us of that, that saying, that idiom, fight tooth and nail. We've got the glossy, polished nails and the capped, hard surface of the tooth. And these are used as weapons in their battle as rivals, aren't they? Moving down to the fourth verse. And I have much to thank for her. This son she bore, first blood to her, never, never can escape, scot-free, the sour potluck of family. This is the sour potluck and the bitter cup of tea. This somehow the kind of food, the sustenance that she is giving as her role as mother is unpleasant. It's maybe even poisonous. And that phrase, first blood, is really interesting. Obviously that they're linked, they've got this blood link, haven't they, son and mother. And also it reminds us of her act of giving birth as well. She bore him. And of course that act of giving birth involves blood too. But also reminds us of her, the expression used in a fight, who draws blood first blood, who draws blood first is at an advantage. So there's this kind of feeling that they're both, she's at an advantage maybe because she's his mother and, they're linked with blood. So she's maybe in a position of power. Potluck, sour potluck of family. Tying in with that idea of food and supper, continuing the imagery of food and sustenance. Potluck is a word that's often associated with supper. The potluck supper is one that you go to and, everybody brings a dish and then you kind of hope that it's going to be good. And she's relating that idea to a family. You've heard of the phrase, you can't choose your family, haven't you? And that's really what she's referring to. It's like potluck. Are you going to get on with them? Are you not? And oh, how close this family that furnishes my rival's place. So this family are close and she is feeling disadvantaged by that. And link this furnishes to the idea of peopled in the first verse. The confusion between furnishing and peopled, people and things are they're sort of almost indistinguishable. So is Liz Lockhead saying that, people are seen as possessions by this mother figure? Quite possibly. Anyway, worth investigating a little bit more. Let's have a look at the 5th verse. Lady of the house, queen bee. Well, these are titles, these are roles, connotations of aristocracy, the lady of the house. Like the house, she's appearing much more grand than she really is. Queen bee. Well, the queen bee is someone who is in charge and controls those around her, doesn't she? But the fact that she's a bee reminds us of danger, her ability to inflict pain through a sting. But she's not. What makes her so dangerous is that she is not conscious of what she's doing. She doesn't know what she's doing, which makes her more dangerous. And then there's this humorous aside here. Listen, I was always my own worst enemy. So building on this sort of battle imagery, using the word enemy there, making a joke really about that as well. And then the final verse, she dishes up dreams for breakfast, dinner, and her salt tears pepper our soup. So more food imagery. This mother, of course, conventionally a mother's role is to provide sustenance, which is somehow a threat. She dishes up her dreams for breakfast and dinner, and her salt tears pepper our soup. So salt and pepper, salt tears kind of seem to flavour the soup. Very interesting image there that you need to unravel. Last sentence divided up into 2 lines. She won't give up. I don't think you can say that except through gritted teeth. There's a real sort of bitterness there, isn't there? So in terms of not dramatic methods, because it's not drama, in terms of methods that Liz Lockhead is using, key methods I'd say, of course, is characterisation through setting. The house is a reflection of this mother figure. It's an extension of her personality. The setting is meaningful, it's very important, it's very significant. And then I think word choice, focus on Liz Lockhead's choice of words, the repetitions, the sounds, the connotations of them. It's poetry, so every single word in there has been very carefully chosen, very carefully crafted. And the structural device, contrasting images, what's happening on the surface, and then what the distortion, what really is happening underneath. Sorry, that was a bit long.